First, we did our podcast episode on what professions come along with the highest divorce rate. And now, of course, in concurrence with that, the jobs with the lowest divorce rate. First, I will list some of them and provide some commentary, some explanation, some theories, and hypotheticals. Medical scientists and life scientists. Perhaps those folks have read studies suggesting that if you're married for a long time, you might live for a long time. Of course, traditionally, there have been any number of jokes between men and women that that is absolutely not the case. But we can imagine that some folks believe that having a routine, commonality, company, and somebody to share your life with, perhaps that leads to a lower rate of divorce. Unsurprisingly, clergy. Not all clergy are able to marry. Not all religious figures are able to marry, but deacons and pastors are able to marry, for example. And perhaps those folks, for any number of reasons, maybe it's reputation, the community in which they live, perhaps it is the strength of their religious beliefs and the vows they have taken, those folks tend to have a very low rate of divorce. Software developers, I did not know that, as I believe the contrary is true, but statistically, for those that have been surveyed, software developers have a low rate of divorce, only 1 in 5. Physical therapists. That is an interesting one. Perhaps those folks have more empathy and sympathy for others because of the injuries that they deal with through other people, the treatment they provide. Maybe they have a great deal of sensitivity. Chemical engineers have a low rate of divorce. I thought the opposite was true as well, based upon other studies I've read. Good news for me, pharmacists have a low rate of divorce. It looks like my wife is staying with me. Dentists have a low rate of divorce. Well, I cannot speak to that, but some dentists have told me that they feel like being married is similar to pulling teeth. Of course, that's just a joke. Pharmacists, as I just mentioned, what else? Speech language pathologists. One of my only friends and best friends for a very long time is married to a speech language pathologist. They have a healthy marriage. Perhaps there is something to it, though I'm not familiar enough with their line of work to determine how that could lead to a healthy and happy marriage. Although these divorce rates, let's be honest, do not talk about how happy these folks are in their marriages based on their jobs, only whether or not they get a divorce. Vegetarians. Nope, I misread it. It's veterinarians. Veterinarians, only about 1 in 5 are divorced. There may be something to that based upon the fact that animal lovers often have very soft hearts and are very loving people. Agricultural product graders and sorters. Okay, we can imagine that perhaps somebody that is grating cheese, and I do not mean slicing it, but actually determining the value of food from eggs to cheese to other products and whether or not those are grade A, grade B, or some other grade. I could not speculate as to how those distinctions are made. Maybe those folks have such happy and interesting jobs that it allows them to be stress free in their regular life. We could talk about that for hours on end, is the stress that each of these jobs brings. Maybe if the home life brings stress too, then the work life makes living very difficult. But in this case, according to statistics, only 1 in 5 agricultural product graders and sorters. Of course, sorters might be something like person who picks produce, different story. What else is on this list? Optometrists. I guess they're not seeing clearly because only 1 in 5 of them get a divorce. Optometrists are in a different profession in a sense than ophthalmologists because of malpractice issues and because of the scope of their work may not be as broad as an ophthalmologist. Perhaps that means that they do not carry as many horrific stresses from surgeries and severe eye injuries and things like that, and it might make their life after 9 to 5 more enjoyable and subject to peace and harmony. What else do we have rounding out this list? Physicians and surgeons, 21.8% divorce. That is surprising. One would think that doctors are more frequently divorced given the stresses of the job and all that they have to deal with, as I mentioned before, malpractice considerations, and the thought that any wrong move during surgery, any wrong diagnosis, may cause grievous harm to a patient, even for a top level professional. But on the flip side, those folks may need a harmonious, happy, healthy, consistent, and routine filled home life to compensate for the rigors and the stresses of their work life. So far, no huge surprises, no major, giant, shocking statistics, but I would rather see a study, even more so than the jobs with the highest divorce rates and the lowest divorce rates. I would really like to see some surveys, those folks even if those folks do not necessarily want to admit it openly, even if it has to be under some sort of closed parameters where their identities are not revealed, their names aren't taken, but they're still willing to perhaps participate in that survey, I would really like to find out the level of happiness of these marriages, not just whether or not those folks remain married, because that may tell an entirely different story, and it may also give us some insight into why certain people in certain professions are more likely to remain married than others. Thank you, as always, for listening. This has been another episode of the Best Florida Family Law Podcast. My name is Attorney Jonathan Jacobs of the Jacobs Law Firm, and I really enjoy speaking with you. Talk to you next time.